everyone, it's Katie, your CSA coach with Shared Legacy Farms, and today's tutorial is all about Swiss Chard, which can show up at the beginning of the season, usually this time of year, and also later on in the season. You usually get it in bunches like this. It is kind of a mix between spinach and kale, so it's a little bit hardier or tougher than spinach, not as soft as spinach, but not quite as tough as kale. So because of that, it's pretty easy to eat raw, but it's also fantastic cooked. In the beginning of the season, you might get smaller bunches with smaller leaves like this, and that's just the beginning. As these are harvested and the plant is given more time to grow and mature throughout the season, the leaves will actually be bigger. So you can also see some changes in the size of the chard leaf. So you get this home, it is considered a danger zone veggie, so you're in danger of losing it if you don't eat it soon. Usually you have less than a week to eat it, hopefully within the first 3 days, 3 or 4 days. You've got a couple different options when you get it home as far as storage goes. So it comes in this bunch, and you want to store it unwashed. You can store it unwashed, whole, in a green bag, and you'll probably have about 3 days or so. The other way to store it that might buy you a little bit more time is to actually separate the stems from the leaves. So you've got the leaves and the stems here. If you separate them, you might buy yourself a few more days. So you could store the stems in one green bag and the leaves in another, and then use them both still within a week. So both parts of this plant are edible. The stems are a little harder, kind of like a celery texture, like a pretty hardy celery texture, but both are definitely edible. The reason you want to separate them is these are going to take a little bit longer to cook, so you don't want to throw just the whole thing in the pot at one time. So the first thing I want to do is make a quick, really easy, simple dish with the stems and the leaves. So I'm going to heat up my pan here with a little bit of oil. And this is as simple as it's going to get. I'm going to chop up these stems into small pieces, because I'm going to put those in this pan first. The only ingredients to this are the Swiss chard, a little bit of garlic, and some salt and pepper. Now you can definitely add some onions to this. You could add some pepper flakes, like some red pepper flakes. Some people like to add some bacon to it. But this is just a fast, easy side dish. I'm going to add some garlic scapes today, which also came in our box, instead of your typical garlic. So I'm going to dice these up. I'm going to put the ends of those scapes in my veggie scrap bag. If you didn't want to cook the stems of your chard, you could also put those in your veggie scrap bag. All right. So I've got my oil heating up here, and I'm going to start out by adding the scapes and the stems. I might need to add a little bit more oil, actually. I'm going to cut off the stems of some of these. I really like the colorful ones. Other ways to cook these, you can also add them into soups, into casserole dishes, into stir fries. You don't necessarily just have to make a side dish or a dish with greens. These cooked greens also go well with a nice grilled protein of some sort. So I've got the garlic scapes and the stems cooking. Add oil to this. If you were going to add some onions, this is when you would add the onions. So I'm going to let that cook, and I'm going to get these leaves cut up. Now since I'm cooking them, I'm just kind of making a side dish to start here. I don't necessarily need to cut them into super small pieces, but we do want to cut them up a little bit. So red pepper flakes would go really well with this. Bacon seems to be a favorite in our CSA group. A little bit more garlic. So I just cut these up kind of into big pieces like this. And this is actually going to turn into 2 dishes. So I'm making a super simple side using just the Swiss chard, and then I'm also going to turn this into a frittata, which is a great exit strategy and a great way to use some of the greens that you find in your CSA box. So these are starting to soften up a little bit. They look so pretty with all their colors. So then I am just going to take these leaves and add them to the garlic and to the stems. And they are going to cook down a ton. Gonna get them so they're coated with the oil a little bit. I'm gonna also add a little bit of coarse salt here. And a little bit of pepper. These greens are loaded with good phytonutrients that are great for our immune system, your immune system, healthy inflammatory response, anti-cancer. I think it's so important to get a good variety of greens in. I know we all kind of get stuck and just tend to eat the same ones. So getting comfy during CSA season and getting this variety in is good. So those are just about cooked. I'm going to remove the stems of these other guys. Here I've got a few other big leaves. Actually, these are a little bit larger. And those greens are probably going to cook down pretty fast. So let's see. Yep, they really wilt down. They smell really great with the garlic. Alright, so this could be a super simple side dish just by itself. So I'm going to scoop some out to show you. You could use this and put some grilled chicken, a grilled steak on it. You could mix it with some other veggies. So a super simple way to kind of cook those greens up. I still have a decent pan full here, you can see. And I actually cooked up some ground meat earlier just with some Italian seasoning. You don't have to add any meat. You can also add some other veggies to this. And I'm going to turn the rest of this into a frittata to eat for some quick, easy breakfast this week. So I've got the rest of those chard stems and leaves in there with a little bit of already cooked protein. Again, your option. You could also add broccoli to this or more greens if you wanted. And I just have, I think, about 8 eggs whisked up in here. And I'm going to pour this on top of the mixture. And I am just going to let this set for a second. I'm going to let that egg spread throughout. You want to make sure when you're doing this, obviously, that you use a cast iron pan or some sort of oven-safe pan. I've got my oven preheated to 400. And I'm going to put this in the oven. It's just the eggs, the greens. Sometimes you can let it set for a little bit longer on the stove there. To kind of let the egg set. But I'm going to put this in the oven and I'm going to bake this for probably 25 to 30 minutes until the egg is totally cooked. And then I'm going to slice it up and store it in my refrigerator and grab a piece for breakfast all week long. Super easy, super healthy, and pretty cost effective too, and a great way to sneak some greens into your family's breakfast. I know that's an area where a lot of us don't tend to get enough veggies. So these other greens you also can eat raw. Like I said, they're a little bit firmer than spinach. So when I eat them raw, if I'm going to put them in a salad, I tend to just chop them up finely and then add them to some other greens. So I actually have a salad already prepped for my lunch tomorrow. And I'm just going to sneak some more of these leaves in there. When I add extra greens to things that I'm cooking, I also tend to cook them finely like this, or chop them finely, and that way I can kind of sneak them into extra casseroles or sauces, soups, things like that. So I've got my Shared Legacy Farms salad ready to go for tomorrow, and I'm just throwing on some extra dark leafy greens to add some nutrients to my lunch. So you can eat the leaves raw. The other thing I like to do is use them for wraps. So whether you're making like a sandwich or a chicken salad or a veggie wrap, you can use these as a little bit different variety, I guess, compared to your typical lettuce. So that is our tutorial on Swiss chard. Make sure that you post your comments and questions below. Let us know your tips and tricks if you have a favorite recipe using this delicious green. Thanks and have a great day.